Hey, how's it going, everyone? I'm Brian with Castle, and in this Castle Quick class, what we're going to be talking about is security as a feature. This is a new trend that we're seeing become more and more popular as we see specifically with consumer-facing applications. There's this movement to start adding features that are actually user-facing features that help engage the user in their own security posture, help the users actually secure their own accounts. To take a step backwards, though, before we get into that, what we were seeing over the last 5 years was this huge push to introducing invisible security. And what I mean by invisible security is removing this over reliance on security gates. Security gates are things like this, a login form. Anywhere in an app where you're forcing a user to go through a friction point, maybe enter their email and password before they can unlock access to a certain activity. In this case, it's unlocking access to their entire account. You can imagine on registration, if a user's signing up, maybe you force the user to complete a CAPTCHA, and then you send them an email, and then they have to verify their email address, all before they can just create an account. So what you see in a lot of applications are these security gates that are kind of sprinkled out. It's these friction points that try to enforce security throughout the application. And what consumer-facing apps are trying to do more and more of today is move towards invisible security. Where can you remove those gates without detracting from a secure user experience? Why would you want to remove these gates, though? Well, there's a lot of reasons. When we talk with our customers today, one of the big things is overall, you just want to reduce user friction wherever possible. And by doing so, you can provide a better, smoother UX, which leads to increased conversion rates. You can think of that as conversion rates at sign up. If you're aiming for, explosive user growth this quarter, you need to make that registration process as efficient as possible. Anywhere you can remove a step, you need to, and that's going to overall increase your user sign-up rates. Or maybe on transaction, if you're forcing the user to go through a bunch of steps that are maybe to prevent against fraud, every one of those steps is actually removing from your overall transaction rate, your conversion rate, and that's hurting your company's bottom line. So how can you make sure that security is in place without actually introducing all of these high friction gates? And ultimately, at the end of the day, nobody loves having to enter these passwords. Nobody loves having to complete a CAPTCHA. So everyone that you can remove, you're making the users more happy. You're also removing this sense of false security from your own teams. I'm sure that anyone in security is aware that just by enforcing a username and password at login, that's not the end all be all to security. We're familiar with credential stuffing attacks. We're familiar with the fact that ATO account takeovers are on the rise, especially during COVID. So just having a username and password form there, that's not entirely securing your app. So you always need to layer security layer after layer after layer. So what we're going to do in a bit is we're going to dive into demo. We'll look at what invisible security actually looks like, but we'll also talk a little bit about security as a feature, kind of the inverse of that, which is intentionally providing a user experience that's related to security. And ultimately, you want to do both. Maybe 90% of the security that you're going to roll out across your application should be invisible security. Think of this as when you enter a storefront. You might have a door, you have a lock on the door. So that's the security gate. But then once you're in, there's monitors all over the place. There's cameras that are tracking customer movement. So there's film you can play back if there's any theft. That's all stuff that's frictionless to the consumer. When a consumer is shopping, they don't have to worry about the cameras there. They're just there. They're providing the security backup, but it's not really in the user's face. It's not providing friction for them to go and browse the store and ultimately check out. Security as a feature is another bit that you want to layer in. Now, this is extremely intentional user experiences, different from a security gate that's just halting the user. It's more providing value to the user. And why would you want to build an entire UX, maybe an entire view in your app that is security as a feature? Well, for a few reasons. When we talk to some of our customers, some of the top reasons we find out are it helps them build trust with their users. When they're providing these engaging experiences that let the users participate in their own security, it really does build trust with them. It builds this sense of security and a sense that the application developers are really putting user security top of mind. It also helps to educate and engage your users. For example, you might have logged into an app, you go into your account security settings, and you can see a list of every device that's accessed to your account. For me as a user, I love that, because if anything looks suspicious, I'm now educated of that and I'm engaged, and I can go and revoke access from that device on my own. It really helps to show that you as a business are user-centric. There are some businesses that are both in the same industry, but if they're consumer facing, any little thing you can do to show that you're putting the user first, that the user is top of mind, helps to build your overall brand reputation. Another thing is this offloads support teams. Again, back to the case of seeing a list of devices in my account, if I can go and detect a suspicious device and I can revoke it on my own, that's one less email that goes to the support team. That's one less phone call where I'm stuck waiting in line for a support team to churn through this queue of support items to ultimately get to me. If I can help myself, then I'm actually helping your business and offloading support costs from your side. Another piece from the more of the data science point of view is this automation of data set labeling. If you're working on fraud or security analyst teams, a big part of the job is just labeling the data. What's a true positive? What's a false positive? What's a false negative? If the user can be engaged in their own security experience and they can self-label a device that looks suspicious or a transaction that looks fraudulent, you can actually receive that input and use that to label the data. So in this sense, you're actually offloading all that work, that data set labeling, to your users around the world. So you don't have to put your analysts in charge of just going through and labeling the data manually. It's a huge upside to engaging users in security. And lastly, by doing this, by offering specific security features to your users, you're really showcasing this authentic security posture. You know, it's nice to put maybe a SOC 2 compliance banner on your website, or different banners that you can collect and showcase and all that. But if you can really offer a feature, something that the users can feel, they can touch, they can engage with, that's where you're showcasing the fact that you are taking security seriously, you're a user-centric company, and you're really putting the best of your abilities into the application. Let's jump into a few product demos. What we're going to look at first is an example of what we mean by invisible security and show how that's really important. And then we'll show how we can actually layer it up with security as a feature. And we'll look at one or two examples of security as a feature. I'm going to switch over to a demo application I've set up here. So I have this demo app here called Piggy Bank. I can simulate different devices that I'm going to interact with. So right now, I've been logging into this account, Yohan at Castle.io, from a Chrome on Mac OS device. And this app is actually wired up to Castle. So we have the Castle APIs integrated with it. And if I jump over to the Castle dashboard, here you can see that user. If I scroll down, you can see the event history. So you can see I logged in, I made a few transactions. Later, I did another login. You can see where I'm coming in from. The session came in from San Francisco, California. You can see that Chrome on Mac OS device was recognized. So we're able to see inside the Castle dashboard how this user is interacting with the Piggy Bank application. And we'll see what happens as I start to interact a little more and maybe interact with different devices. So the first thing, let me just go ahead and do another login here. And I'm going to log in. Now, it looks like I just entered the right username and password, and that was it. So I was let straight into the app. But what you might not have realized is there was actually invisible friction, invisible security taking place behind the scenes. So right here, this console is showing how this app is interacting with the Castle APIs. So when I did that login, a login succeeded event was sent to the Castle API. Castle evaluated this login for this user, deemed it to be a safe login, and returned an allow verdict saying this user is allowed to log in, everything looks safe. And if I jump back over to the Castle dashboard, I do a quick refresh, we will see that new login was recorded. All right, so if I jump down, you'll now see there's now a new login here from 3:03 p.m., which is right now when I've just completed this login. Now, let's see what happens when I come in maybe from a suspicious device. We're going to see how that invisible security kicks in. So I'm going to simulate or emulate another device here. This time we'll do a Apple iOS device on a Firefox browser coming in from Argentina. So let me go ahead and create that device. I'm going to do another login here. All right, this time you can see I'm pushed into a step-up off flow. It's asking me to go through a 2FA challenge, essentially. So what actually happened here? Well, if I go back to the logs, this was the login I just attempted. So you can see it was actually a login succeeded again. So I did enter the correct username and password, but in this case, Castle returned a challenge verdict. And that challenge verdict is what prompted this enhanced level of friction. So what that meant was when I was coming in from my normal device, a safe device, this entire bit of friction here, this whole 2FA flow was cut out. We didn't have to deploy that for the user. We were able to let the user get straight into the app very quickly because nothing looks suspicious. But when I come in from this Firefox device, let's see what Castle detected. Jump back over, let me refresh this user's view. Okay, so you can see the user's risk score overall is elevated. If I zoom out on the map here, you can see it still shows that I had done that original login from San Francisco, from this pink device, but now there's this new blue device here, and this one's coming in from Argentina. You can see it picked up that there's this new iOS device from a Firefox browser, and it got graded with a risk score of 75. That's in our anomaly risk range. And you can see here's that other history I'd had where I logged in from the Chrome device and did those transactions and logged in a few more times. And here's what happened when I logged in from that Apple device. When I logged in, Castle detected all of these threat flags that I came in from a new country. It was a new device type for this user, a new device itself. I came in from a new ISP. It detected a fast travel pattern, meaning I was logging in from two drastically different locations within a short period of time. And Castle therefore triggered a challenge for this user. So that's where you can see the power of this invisible security at play. And if I were to, let me back out, I go back to my safe device and I attempt to log in again. And boom, for my safe device, again, no friction, I'm allowed right in. It doesn't mean that the security wasn't there. The security was there, it's just happening behind the scenes. And again, in the logs here, you can see it was behind the scenes because Castle returned an allow verdict. That's the power of invisible security. And that's why there has been such a push in the last few years towards invisible security. Let's not force every user to go through an MFA flow just because. Let's only introduce that needed level of friction when it's actually needed. And for example, when you're coming in from a suspicious device, something that's unusual for that user. Now let's talk about security as a feature. With security as a feature, if I log back out here, when this login occurred, let's assume that wasn't me. Let's assume I got caught up in a phishing scam, someone else got my username and password, and they logged into my account. Now, as a user, did I know that that attempted login occurred? Now, I'm happy that this piggy bank app caught it, applied the friction, and prevented that, anomalous user from getting into my account. But am I, as the actual account owner, even aware of that? This is where security as a feature comes into play. Now, what you might have noticed over here is these notifications were fired out. As soon as Castle detected this suspicious device, we triggered a few webhooks to the piggy bank application to allow them to respond to this threat and reach out to the user in real time. So there was two things that got triggered. One was the MFA flow. So this was the PIN code that I could have entered to get into the app if it actually was me. But in this case, it was an attacker. So I'm not going to move forward with the PIN code. And thankfully, Castle also powered this secondary email here, which is informing me about a new device, saying, hey, we noticed that you recently logged in from a new device. Can you take a second to review this? Now, as the user, I'd be seeing this email come out of the blue, realizing that there was some attempted login to my account from Buenos Aires, Argentina. I know that's not me. I know I'm in San Francisco. I know I'm not even logging in from an Apple device. So now I'm provided an opportunity to review this device. If I click here, I can now say, yes, this was me, or no, this was not me. This gives me an opportunity to actually revoke access from that device. The device gets escalated. And if we jump into the Castle dashboard, you can see here, boom, that suspicious device is now escalated to our highest score of 100. You can see here where the escalation occurred, and Castle has now effectively secured this account and recognizes the suspicious login, no longer as suspicious, but as malicious. Another nice thing that nice feature that Castle offers our customers is whenever you're looking at an individual user view, we offer this list of devices here where you can, in a more clean way, see the different devices that have accessed their account. But this list we provide via an API. So through an API, you can get a list of user devices for any of your users. You get a response in JSON feed with a lot of data here. It gives you information about the geolocation of the device, user agent information, as well as the risk flags that we detected on any given device. Now, this isn't just nice to have in our dashboard, but what this allows you to do is continue to build additional security as a feature components inside of your own application for your own users. So let's take a look at that. If I jump back here to the app, I'm going to log back in from my safe device. I'm going to log in. And keep in mind, as a user, I just realized that somebody tried logging into my account. I revoked that device, but I might be a little worried. What happened? Did that device actually get blocked? And now I might be trying to get on the phone or send an email to support teams and just clogging up your support queue. But what we offer here in this piggy bank app is this devices tab where the user can see a list of their devices, the devices that have accessed their account, the risk scores for each of them. And you can see right here that that Apple device was rejected. So now as the user, I know that that email flow I went through to report that device, I can see that that was taken into account. I can see the last time that device logged in and it's not logging anymore, and that I am now safe from this device. And you can see when I go to this devices tab, it's all powered through, it's not shown in this console, but it is all powered through Castle's APIs, similar as you see here. You can make an API request. You can get the data set back. And actually our docs are all public. So if I go over to the documentation page, we can see device management tool. And we have documentation here that explains to you how you can build these types of views on your own, how you can build them into your application. We have some customers that build them into the app for their customers to use. We have other customers that are actually building it for their own internal admins to use. They want to build a holistic fraud reporting dashboard for their internal teams, for the internal support team. So they have all their different security tools that pull data into a centralized hub. And Castle's APIs is one piece of that stack that they layer in. If any of their support teams need to go and do a manual investigation, they pull the Castle data right in. So it's And so they have it at a glance within their overall user support hub. So that is a little bit of what I wanted to discuss with everyone today. And again, we're talking about security as a feature, how you can use Castle and Castle's APIs to build some of these into your application out of the box, how you can build trust with users, engage and educate them, pull them into their own security posture, offload your support teams by using these security as a feature components that we offer in our APIs. But also if you're one of our enterprise customers and you're really trying to push the envelope and you want to do something that you haven't maybe seen in a lot of apps done yet today, we'd love to hear about those use cases. We're always trying to build out new things that support your vision and the degree of innovation you're trying to push for. So if you have any ideas of what might be the next level of security as a feature that you'd like to build into your application, please reach out, let us know. We'd love to be a part of seeing, is that something we could help you with? Is there something in our data set that we could help to power your innovation? Thanks all. This was another Castle Quick Class. I hope that was helpful.